Hi, this is about judging poetry. First off, go to your judges table, sign in, let them know you're here. They'll give you your room assignments. For round one and round two, you'll get your sheets from your performers. Round three, they'll be provided to you. They may be in the room, or we may send them with another judge, or we may send them with you. So somebody, though, one of the judges is going to have your performance sheets. So that's for finals only. The rest, round one and round two, the performers will give them to you. You go to your room, make sure you're in the right room. Um, Try to have a general idea of how many people are performing in your room. First round, it's kind of hard because we've had a lot of drops, but I will try to make sure you know. So when you're done, you're done. You're not sitting there waiting. Usually it's going to be from 5 to 7. So that's kind of the general rule of thumb. This is a timed event, but if you do not have a timer present, you cannot count off for time. And we will probably only have a timer in poetry in the finals. So don't worry about a time. You might say just piece just felt short or didn't feel like you could develop anything because it was so short. You can say something like that, but you can't say this was only 2.5 minutes long. I'm going to take points off for that. You can't do that if we don't actually have a timer. Um, Poetry, they should be standing still. So when you get to the room, just make sure your desk is kind of in the front and there is a 3 by 3 foot space where the performer can stand and perform directly in front of you. Don't be off to the side. It's just weird. Just be right in front. They should stay put. They should have a binder in their hands. They cannot walk. They cannot have any directional movement with their legs. They can pick up their legs like that they need to stomp their foot, or they shift a little bit to one side, and just slightly turn, but they should not be walking or moving in any direction. Okay. They should be using their book as a prop somewhat so that it should switch hands. They can use it to act with or whatever, but it still has to feel like it's a reading because poetry is a reading. So they can have it completely memorized, but they still should be glancing down and looking at it. They still should be turning the pages. It still needs to feel like it's a reading. It should have an introduction. That introduction should be memorized. So they should close their book, give you the introduction. It should tell you the title of the piece, the author. It should give some information on maybe why they put these pieces together, how they fit together and flow, or why you should care about listening to these pieces. Just give you some info on it. Um, it should be very obvious that it's in a different voice than their poetry is in. Then that can be, they could give part of the poetry and then do their intro and then keep going, or they can give it at the very beginning. It needs to feel appropriate wherever it is. So you can comment if it felt like it cut the piece in a really weird place, you can comment on that. Um, they should be, it doesn't have to rhyme poetry. It might be blank verse. It might not rhyme at all, but it should have a feeling of flow to it. It should have pauses where necessary, but it always should be easy to understand. You should be able to understand what they're saying. They shouldn't go so fast that you can't process what they're saying. So make sure you can understand it. That's something that you're looking for when you're judging. Make sure that you know that the person presenting it understands what their piece is about and therefore portrays to you what their piece is about. So if you get done at the end and you're like, I have no idea what that was about, then they didn't do a very good job. Okay, because if they can't tell you, if you can't figure it out, then it's not been presented well. So that's something you can comment on. Like, I didn't follow what was going on. I don't understand what your poetry is about. Maybe you should give me some dramatic pauses. Maybe you should give me some voice inflection, stuff like that, to help. If there are different characters in the readings, a lot of times in poetry there isn't, but if there is, like if there's a dad's voice, there should be a dad's voice and it should stay consistent throughout. If there is an old grandma, a southern grandma, she should be the old southern grandma the entire way through. They can't lose it. If there's characters changes, you should be able to see those characters change. Um, it overall, it just should have good energy and flow. It should be interesting to listen to it. You should be able to follow it. That's about what I can give you on poetry. It's a harder one because each piece is very different, but go with what you like. That is fine. What should you do while you're judging? same as I've said with others, whatever you do, just be consistent. If you're going to be responsive, if you're going to laugh, if you're going to cry, if you're going to shake your head, then do that for everybody. If you're going to be stone faced, and do that for everybody. If you're going to write a lot of notes, do that for everybody. But do try to look up, because it is important what they're doing as they're acting. They are acting this piece out for you. So do make sure you look up and do that. Then you judge, you rank. First place is the best in the room, and then the lowest rank would be however many you had. So if you had 5, the fifth place is your lowest ranking. If you had 7, seventh place is your lowest ranking. You should just be in order. I usually put them in my stack in order as we go, and if the third one was the best one, it goes to the bottom of the stack. Whichever one was the best stays at the bottom. So they end up in order. And then your quality points, you have to fill those in. They can be ties. There can be no ties in the rankings. The rankings have to be an individual 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But there can be ties in the quality points. But somebody with a lower ranking can never have a higher quality score than someone with a higher ranking. So again, if you have a first and second that are both amazing, they can both have 25s. But then if the third wasn't as good, they definitely have to have a lower score. So there should be like 23, 22, 24 if they were really close to as good, and just kind of work it down. Never give less than a 15. Just because they showed up, they did it. I think 15 is just an effort for bravery to do that. So then get those all done, sign them, make sure you have the right room number, the right round up on the top of all of your rubrics, and then take those to the judges table and make sure you hand them to them, and that person looks through them all and says, yep, they're good, you're ready to go, and then they send you off to your next room. Okay, that's it. Thanks a lot.